So singer David is in some hot water.
The LAPD was quick to clarify that the case was officially a homicide investigation, though they stopped short of naming Burke as a suspect. By then, however, the damage was already done. Public opinion doesn't wait for press conferences. Overnight, D4VD's carefully built persona, the shy gamer turned rising musician, the Gen Z sad boy artist who channeled loneliness into music, crumbled. Fans felt betrayed. How could the same young man who spoke openly about faith and isolation now be linked, even indirectly, to a decomposing body found in his car? The images of officers at the impound lot, red and blue lights flickering against the Tesla's glossy surface, became one of the most haunting visuals of 2025. And although investigators stressed that no arrests had been made and no suspects officially identified, the public had already drawn its own conclusions. For days, the body inside the trunk remained officially unnamed. Police released only the most basic details. The remains were female, severely decomposed, and hidden for a long time. Behind the scenes, forensic specialists worked relentlessly to restore her identity. On September 17, 2025, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed what many feared. The victim was 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a teenager from Lake Elsinore in Riverside County. The revelation devastated the community. For Celeste's family, who had endured more than a year of agonizing uncertainty, it was the nightmare ending they had prayed never to face. Celeste had disappeared on April 5, 2024. That afternoon, she told her brother Matthew she was going out to see a movie with him. Somewhere along that short trip, she vanished. She was only 13 years old. Her family searched desperately, plastering missing posters around town, pleading for help online, filing repeated reports with the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. But as weeks became months, and months stretched into a year, hope gave way to despair. For a family with a missing child, every knock at the door could mean news. Every report of an unidentified body could be her. On September 17, 2025, the cruel uncertainty ended in tragedy. Their little girl was gone. The medical report painted a heartbreaking picture. Celeste was petite, just over 5 feet tall and weighing barely 71 pounds. Friends remembered how she loved her long, wavy black hair, once a source of pride. When her remains were found, she was still dressed in the same outfit she'd last been seen wearing, a tube top, black leggings, and a yellow bracelet shaped like a W, along with simple stud earrings. But one detail stood out most of all. A small tattoo on her right index finger, just 2 letters, Shesh, became the most haunting piece of the puzzle.
So singer David is in some hot water. Previously, it was reported a dismembered body was found in the trunk of his car while he was on tour. Today, the dead body was identified as a 15-year-old who's been missing since she was 13.
The LAPD was quick to clarify that the case was being investigated as a homicide, though they stopped short of naming Burke as a suspect. By then, however, the damage was done. Public opinion rarely waits for official statements. Overnight, D4VD's carefully cultivated image, the quiet, introverted gamer-turned-musician, the Gen Z sad boy whose songs were born out of loneliness, was shattered. Fans felt betrayed. How could the same young man who once spoke so openly about faith, isolation, and creativity now be linked even indirectly to a decomposing body discovered in his own car? The footage of officers at the impound lot, flashing police lights reflecting off the Tesla's glossy paint, quickly became one of the most chilling visuals of 2025. And while investigators emphasized that no arrests had been made and no suspects identified, the public had already formed its suspicions. For several days, the victim in the trunk remained unidentified. Police released only the barest details. The remains were female, badly decomposed, and hidden for an extended period of time. Behind the scenes, however, forensic teams were working relentlessly to restore the victim's name. On September 17, 2025, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed the truth. The body belonged to 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a teenager from Lake Elsinore, Riverside County, California. The announcement shook the public and devastated Celeste's family. After more than a year of uncertainty, they now faced the nightmare ending they had prayed to avoid. Celeste had vanished on April 5, 2024. That spring afternoon, she told her brother Matthew she was heading out with him to see a movie. Somewhere along that short journey, she disappeared. She was just 13 years old. Her family searched desperately, plastering missing posters across Lake Elsinore, pleading for help online, and filing repeated reports with the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. But weeks turned into months, and months stretched into a year. Hope slowly crumbled. For a family of the missing, every knock on the door could bring devastating news. Every report of an unidentified body could be their child. And on September 17, 2025, that cruel uncertainty ended with finality. Their little girl was gone. The medical report painted a heartbreaking picture. Celeste was petite, just over 5 feet tall and weighing only 71 pounds. Friends remembered how proud she had been of her long, wavy black hair. When her remains were discovered, she was still wearing the same outfit she'd last been seen in: a tube top, black leggings, a yellow bracelet shaped like a W, and simple stud earrings. But one detail lingered above all others. On her right index finger was a small tattoo, a delicate inscription reading, "Shh." That single mark would become the most haunting piece of the puzzle.
The girl and David have matching tattoos on their hand. The mom of the girl recalls hearing from her that her boyfriend's name is David, which just happens to be the name of David, spelled with a 4, his performance name. David is 20 years old.
For Celeste's mother, the tattoo was the first undeniable confirmation that the body belonged to her daughter. She told TMZ that, deep down, she had suspected it all along. When the LAPD announced they had discovered a young girl's remains inside a Tesla and described her size, her clothing, and her jewelry, she said her heart already knew the truth. Then came the detail that continues to fuel speculation. At the time of her disappearance, Celeste had mentioned having a boyfriend named David. Her mother had never met him, never even seen his face. But that name, David, would come back with devastating force when it was tied to the Tesla's registered owner, David Anthony Burke. The more facts emerged, the harder they became to dismiss as coincidence. The matching tattoo, the boyfriend's name. The Tesla registered directly to Burke, not borrowed, not stolen. To many online, the picture seemed clear long before the LAPD issued any conclusions. Yet before the case became a public spectacle, it was a private heartbreak. Celeste's family set up a GoFundMe to cover burial expenses and looming legal costs. Friends remembered her as kind, bright, and ambitious, a sweet girl from Lakeland Village School who dreamed of one day making a difference. Her mother's grief spilled into every media appearance: disbelief, anger, and the hollow exhaustion of waiting for answers that could never undo the loss. By this point, the case was no longer just a local homicide investigation. It was spiraling into a global scandal, with questions multiplying by the day. How long had Celeste been dead? How had her body ended up in the front trunk of a Tesla? And most importantly, what connection did David Anthony Burke truly have to her? Fans began drawing eerie parallels. They pointed to his viral hit Romantic Homicide, which included the line, "In the back of my mind, you died." The song's release date reportedly coincided with Celeste's birthday. Was it pure coincidence, or something far more sinister? To understand the storm surrounding him, it's necessary to look back at Burke's story, the controversial history of D4VD. Long before his name was linked to a homicide investigation, David Anthony Burke was considered one of Gen Z's unlikeliest success stories. To his fans, he was proof that solitude could become art, that isolation could be transformed into music that resonated worldwide. Born in Queens, New York in 2005, Burke grew up far from the spotlight. Raised in a devout Christian household and homeschooled for most of his early years, his childhood was sheltered and insular. While other kids made friends in classrooms and cafeterias, Burke's world revolved around church choirs, family Bible study, and video games in his bedroom. That loneliness, though painful, would later become the foundation of his music. By 2017, when Fortnite exploded onto the gaming scene, Burke was among the first to dive in. The Battle Royale quickly became an obsession. Days blurred together as he and a small circle of online friends dissected every update, tested new strategies, and perfected their gameplay. Before long, Burke wasn't just playing, he was creating. He began uploading gaming montages to YouTube, hoping to carve out a space in the booming world of content creators. At first, his videos barely reached a few hundred views, but soon, Burke noticed a pattern. The clips that featured music, slick edits cut to familiar tracks, performed far better than the rest. And that discovery would change the trajectory of his life.
And I looked up how to make music on iPhone, and this app called BandLab comes up. I click on it, I put my Apple earbuds in, and I use my sister's closet as the studio. So I'm like in here, it's dark, we got like robes and everything, blankets, whatever. And I'm looking up type beats on YouTube.
Burke started experimenting by layering mainstream tracks from popular artists into his Fortnite montages. Almost overnight, the views exploded. Videos that once struggled to reach a few hundred plays were suddenly pulling in hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions. For the first time, it felt like everything was falling into place. But there was a problem. The same music that boosted his numbers also triggered copyright strikes. By 2021, labels like Universal Music Group had flagged his videos, cutting off his ad revenue entirely. The money disappeared overnight. For Burke, still just a teenager chasing his dream, it was crushing. He vented his frustration to his mother, telling her how his future as a gaming YouTuber was slipping away. Her response was blunt, almost dismissive, but it changed everything. Then make your own music. Those words pushed him in a new direction. On December 21, 2021, Burke downloaded a music-making app on his iPhone, plugged in his Apple earbuds, and converted his sister's closet into a makeshift studio. Robes, blankets, and hanging clothes became his soundproofing. He scoured YouTube for emo piano-type beats and began freestyling into the mic. That's how the first D4VD songs were born. The learning curve was steep, but Burke had something many others didn't: instinct. His earliest tracks gained modest traction on SoundCloud, helped by tags like emo, lofi, shack-slowed, and reverb. Before long, Fortnite creators were using his music in their own videos, giving him unexpected exposure. Momentum came quickly. One early song, You and I, exploded, amassing 100,000 streams in just 3 days. Suddenly, Burke was no longer just a gamer making background tracks. He was an emerging artist with a sound that resonated far beyond the gaming community.
Yeah, it was impounded right here in Hollywood.
No way.
That's for sure evidence. If it's a body found in there, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, they're gonna scrub that. But I mean, obviously his DNA is gonna be in it, and her DNA is gonna be in it. I feel like if they don't find other DNA,
Bro, either way it goes, she's been missing. That's a missing
Is
child.
he arrested yet?
By 2022, Burke had created the viral hit that would define his career: Romantic Homicide. Unlike his earlier, more upbeat tracks, this one was slow, heavy, and drenched in melancholy. His own mother disliked it, calling it too violent, a reaction that, to Burke, only confirmed he was onto something powerful. When he released it on TikTok, the song spread like wildfire, racking up millions of plays within weeks. Soon after came another breakout single, Here With Me, a dreamy, emotional track perfectly suited to TikTok's aesthetic. By the time both songs crossed into mainstream charts, Burke was no longer just a bedroom musician. He was a star. In 2023, he released his first EP, Petals to Thorns. By early 2025, his debut album Withered had dropped, backed by a world tour that sold out venues across North America and Europe. Collaborations with artists like Kali Uchis further cemented his place in the industry. By mid-2025, he had millions of followers on TikTok and Instagram, and over 33 million monthly listeners on Spotify. To outsiders, it looked like a Gen Z fairy tale. A homeschooled gamer raised on church hymns had turned his loneliness into music, and somehow stumbled into superstardom. Vulnerable, creative, soft-spoken, he embodied the image of an accidental artist who never even planned to make music. But the past doesn't always stay buried. As the Celeste Rivas case unfolded, shadows began to emerge behind the polished tracks and carefully managed persona. Screenshots began leaking from online forums, particularly Discord servers dating back to 2023. These unverified images appeared to show Burke interacting with a girl who looked strikingly like Celeste, then barely a teenager. Some posts claimed he had been closer to her than he ever admitted. Others alleged blurry, grainy photos showed the two together. Fans insisted they were proof of a secret relationship. Then came whispers of an unreleased song allegedly titled Celeste. Metadata connected to Interscope Records suggested Burke had recorded an unfinished demo in 2023. The supposed lyrics revolved around longing and romance. After the body was found, listeners claimed the track was inspired by the very girl discovered in his car. Even more disturbing were accusations that Burke may have begun an inappropriate relationship with Celeste when she was as young as 12 or 13. Threads on TikTok and Reddit went further, alleging he had even paid hush money to conceal interactions with minors. While none of these claims have been verified by police, the lack of clarity only fueled speculation. One particularly persistent rumor suggested Burke had repeatedly paid off underage girls to keep quiet. No official evidence has surfaced, but online, the theory spread like wildfire. The narrative around Burke was shifting. The shy, introverted artist who once said he imagined heartbreaks to write music was being recast as something much darker, a predator who groomed a teenager, hid her body, and may have even left a trail of clues in his own songs. Outside of these alleged ties to Celeste, Burke's record remained mostly clean. He avoided beefs with other artists and rarely engaged in online drama. Ironically, it was that lack of controversy that made the scandal so shocking. Fans had no warning, no scandals, no feuds that could have prepared them for something of this magnitude. Then came the discovery that turned the case into a global headline. The body of Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found inside a Tesla Model 3 registered directly to David Anthony Burke, the musician the world knew as D4VD. For the LAPD, it became one of the most high-profile homicide investigations in recent memory. From the moment the black Tesla was pried open at Hollywood Tow, detectives knew they were handling a case that demanded precision, speed, and answers for a public already on edge. The car was immediately sealed off with crime scene tape, and the entire impound lot became an evidence zone. Forensic teams worked through the night, photographing the vehicle from every angle before carefully removing the body. The coroner later described the remains as being in an advanced state of decomposition, consistent with being hidden for weeks, possibly months. Inside the Tesla, investigators documented everything: fingerprints, DNA traces, fibers, soil samples, even air quality readings. Every surface, from the seats to the glove box, was swabbed. But one of the biggest clues wasn't physical at all, it was digital. Teslas are computers on wheels, logging GPS routes, door openings, and driver profiles. Detectives knew that unlocking that data could provide a minute-by-minute timeline of where the car had been, and perhaps, who had access to it.